Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching World Report on News X World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Nigeria's foreign minister has said Burkina Faso had released 11 personnel of the Nigerian Air Force who were detained on 8 December after their aircraft made an emergency landing. This comes as Burkina Faso's military regime, led by Ibrahim Traoré, released the personnel after meetings with Nigerian delegation. Europe's top court has ruled that Poland's constitutional tribunal breached fundamental principles of EU law and cannot be considered independent or impartial due to irregular judicial appointments. The decision targets judicial reforms pushed by the Nationalist Law and Justice Party during its 2015 to 2023 rule. Europe's top court has ruled that Denmark's 2018 ghetto law, which forces relocation from minority-heavy neighborhoods, could violate EU anti-discrimination rules and amount to ethnic discrimination. The ruling by the European Court of Justice backs legal challenges from residents and deals a blow to Denmark's tough integration policies. The U.S. Senate has voted to pass the Department of Defense budget bill for fiscal year 2026, which included the repeal of the Caesars Act imposed on Syria since 2019. The bill won the support of 77 senators as Syria's Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates Assad Hassan al-Shaibani thanked the U.S. Senate. The World Bank and Syria's Ministry of Agriculture has begun discussions on a support program aimed at addressing key priorities in the country's agricultural sector. They met via video conference, including Isabel Liu, the bank's agricultural sector lead for Syria and Lebanon. British police said a court hearing for Britain's Duke of Marlborough, Charles James Spencer Churchill, is charged with 3 counts of intentional strangulation, which was adjourned. However, a new hearing date has yet to be set. The United States approved a record $11.1 billion arms package for Taiwan, including HIMARS rocket systems. This comes as Taipei plans an additional $40 billion in defense spending, which could further strain U.S.-China relations. The rebel movement M23 has announced its exit from the strategically important city of Uvira in eastern DRC. This reportedly comes at the request of American mediators in the conflict between the M23 and the armed forces of DRC. Now for this hour, we start with Europe. Ukraine and EU leaders are discussing using frozen Russian assets to finance Kyiv's needs, including a potential reparation loan. Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that the assets should not be used as leverage and emphasized the need for security guarantees from both the US and Europe. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk confirmed a breakthrough at the EU summit with agreement to find a fair method to use Russian assets, while other financing options were less supported. Ukraine faces a foreign aid gap of 45 to 50 billion euros next year, and Zelensky has warned that without a tranche backed by frozen assets by spring, drone production may need to be cut. Talks with Belgium and the US continue to ensure Ukraine's financial security, and a positive decision on frozen Russian assets is expected by year-end. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how significant is this, and what are still the risks that are involved if they do use Russian assets for Ukraine?
Sima, good to be with you. I wish we had hours to talk about this because we have to go through so much history, etc. And we are at an alarming point, and we're at a point that people that think, as I said, constant times. I'm not excusing the invasion which was as the Russians said, as an operation in regard to going into the Ukraine. Whether we go back to the color revolution of 2014, if we look at Poroshenko, am I going to go to Europe? Am I going to go to Russia? If we look at Ukrainians people on that border that speak Russian that were complaining about how they were being treated by Ukrainian authorities. There's so much. Go through Minsk, 1994, getting rid of nuclear weapons, etc. There is so much to go through. What I am deeply concerned about, and what many people are concerned about, especially sitting here in the UK, when we've got the saber rattlers who then should have put far more effort over the last 4 years in regard to stopping this war and solving this war. I will say that, as much as that's going to be profoundly unpopular amongst various people, but we need these people around the table to negotiate this and stop this. The other thing is, dare I say it, yes I do, that with the economic problems that across Europe, the theatre in Europe, then it can suit certain countries, suit certain people to then push this, because wars then solve things. And then we have the other thing where governments start to say, well, we're potentially call up young people that we've been vilified for years and years and say go and fight for us. There's a lot in here. The number one thing is we do not want to see a spread of this, another war within Europe. We had World War II, World War II, and all the ramifications of that. And that's why I said we need hours to go through the history. As you as you may note in my voice, I don't take this subject lightly. This needs to stop. And when people are saying, well, I may not have money to make drones or do this, to be honest with you, Asuma, we don't know. We don't know where has the money gone. What we do know is that, and what we may see is that more and more countries may then decide we're going to stop making cars and we need to start making tanks, and that may happen in Germany and elsewhere. But this needs to stop, and hence why the American administration's attitude in turning around and going, where is all this money gone? Buy weapons off us, step up, NATO, start to defend yourself and stop relying on us. But Asuma, there is so much to unpack. I do apologize. Over to you.
100%, yes, indeed. And today we also saw, Mark, Russia issue a warning that about legal action if these assets were used. Do you think these warnings that could change how EU moves forward, or do you think they would ignore these warnings by Russia?
I hear you, and I also hear your concern in your voice. There's part of me that says that the European leaders will not listen. They will then ignore that, as there is these, as we know, in 10 Downing Street, Merz arrives, van der Leyen arrives, Macron arrives, Zelensky arrives, and there's huge hugs by Keir Starmer outside 10 Downing Street. I don't know. I can't answer that. But what is interesting is that even within Brussels, there has been calls within banking, within financial commentators, or within the political realm there, for people not to do this in regard to freezing, in regard to using those assets. The other thing is, and not that this is explained to us, but certain banks would appreciate having that money, having that asset, as they are also in serious trouble, is what they then do with that. But there are many layers of deceit in so many areas of this subject.
100%, yes. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Mark Sutherland for sharing that, but please stay with us as we come back to you for a later discussion as well. Now, moving on, Russia has rejected the International Claims Commission for Ukraine, claiming it has no legal force and it is intended as a propaganda. Europe launched the commission to ensure Kyiv is compensated for hundreds of billions of dollars in damages from Russian attacks and alleged war crimes. The Hague gathering, attended by Ukrainian President Zelensky and 34 European leaders coincided with US-led diplomatic efforts to end the war. Zelensky said all Russian war crimes must have consequences and emphasized that lasting peace requires Russia to accept international rules. The Netherlands-based commission will review claims from individuals, organizations, and public bodies, but there is no guarantee Russia will pay. Options include using Russian frozen assets and EU member contributions. Over 86,000 claims have already been submitted to Ukraine's Register of Damage, though compensation plans could be complicated if an amnesty for wartime atrocities is included in any future peace deal. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, do you think this could change anything? Will this be effective? What impact could this potential inclusion of wartime amnesty in a peace deal have on accountability and a peace?
I think you've laid it out that if people have lost, if they've lost loved ones, if they've lost their homes, if they've seen the infrastructure around them bombed to smithereens, then it's going to be understandable that they would want recompense for that. It's very easy for us sitting here having this kind of discussion, not actually being on the ground and seeing the suffering of what people in Ukraine have been through.
100%.
Let's just say that, and I don't take that lightly at all. They never asked to then be invaded, and they understandably have then fought back. But the political machinations going on, there is going to be a huge ask if that is one of the issues in regard to peace, which is there's no in regard to the American administration getting Putin and Zelensky to the table and turning around if they do and say no, there's going to be no recompense in that. But also I could sarcastically say that there are also countries that also other corporations, banks, whether that's BlackRock, etc., all already lining up to think, oh, fantastic, we could get in here, we could have this contract, that contract. And before anyone says, yes, that sounds extremely conspiratorial, Mark, then I ask them to go down the rabbit hole and look at all these things. Because in many ways, when we're commentating on this, we then have to go far deeper. And for a lot of this is extremely nefarious, and it's not very comfortable when we start looking at this. But that could be a problem. But the number one thing is we want this to end. We want the killing on both sides to end. However, you are absolutely right when other people say this. Ukrainians were invaded on February 2022. That is undeniable. It's going through why did that happen? Why did the Russians decide to take those kind of actions? And the last thing we want is any more escalation in any wider theatre there. But we need this to stop. Asuma.
100%, and yes, I completely agree that we don't take it lightly that we're discussing this in a peaceful state. And with that, I would like to thank Mr. Sutherland for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic. As European leaders arrive in Brussels for key talks on funding Ukraine, Poland is pushing a stark warning with a clear message, which is to act now or pay a much heavier price later. With the war dragging into its fourth year, Polish leaders say Europe faces a direct choice: invest in Ukraine's defense today or risk wider bloodshed across the continent tomorrow. The summit is focusing on whether frozen Russian assets should be used to support Kyiv, a move seen by Poland as both necessary and urgent. While some countries remain cautious, Poland is urging Europe to show unity, take responsibility, and prove it can defend peace before the cost becomes far higher. Let's listen into what the Polish Prime Minister has shared.
Now we have a simple choice: either money today or blood tomorrow. And I am not talking about Ukraine only, I am talking about Europe. And this is our decision to make, and only ours. I think all European leaders have to finally rise to this occasion.
Now for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for staying with us. You know, do you think, looking at Polish leader's statements, do you think he is realistic, or do you think it's fear-mongering? How does Poland's urgent call for funding Ukraine reflect the broader European security concerns who are in the same page as Poland right now?
You have to look at Mr. Tusk of Poland's background as well, which is rather interesting. And the other thing is, it's understanding Polish history. You can then argue that between the First World War and the Second World War is the only time in the last 250 years that they had sort of independence and democratic rule themselves. There was a very famous battle called the Battle of Reykjavik around about 1775 with the Russians. I'm saying that because there's so much history, let alone what happened after the Second World War when Stalin then marched into Poland, and then the Iron Curtain comes down instead of then backing up and then giving freedom back. There's so much to discuss there. Of course, there is a concern. The big challenge to any politicians is to be able to speak, but to be responsible in the rhetoric that they then say. But also it's understandable, and it's important for us to understand previous European history and to have that in our mind as well. Poland has an incredible history and where it is in regard to the juxtaposition of where it's placed in Europe, and that has to be understood as well. Bordering with Russia, not happy with the ongoing, understandable where Russia went into Ukraine. All of this is on the table and has to be understood from all those points of view, in my humble opinion. Asuma.
How do you think, lastly, Mr. Sutherland, how aligned are these countries now? How might differing levels of caution among EU countries affect the bloc's ability to present a unified stance this weekend?
Well, Poland is making sure that its borders are strong. There are strong relationships with the other European countries. Germany has taking rocket batteries from Israel. There is arming going on, and looking at their military assessments deeply. That cannot be denied. That's what's going on. That's what the head of NATO, Mr. Rutte, is then talking about. Asuma.
Indeed. Thank you for highlighting that. And with that, I would like to thank Mr. Mark Sutherland for joining us today and sharing that insight throughout our news. Thank you very much. Now we move on to US. The manhunt for the Brown University shooter in Providence, Rhode Island has entered its 6th day. Police have released a photo and are asking the public for help identifying a person seen crossing paths with the suspect. Authorities also shared a map of streets where the suspect was seen in the hours before Saturday's attack. An early focus on a different person of interest who has now been cleared may have delayed the investigations by up to a day. Limited security camera footage around the campus building where the shooting occurred has raised questions, including from the White House. The attack left 2 students dead and 9 injured, leading Brown University to cancel classes and exams. This marks at least the 75th school shooting in the U.S. this year. Now we move the focus on to Asia. Cambodia's defense ministry has accused Thailand's military of bombing the casino hub of Phoi Phet, a major land crossing between the two nations, which are engaged in renewed clashes along their border. The ministry has said in a statement that Thai forces had dropped 2 bombs in the municipality of Phoi Phet. Reports suggest that renewed fighting between the Southeast Asian neighbors this month has killed at least 21 people in Thailand and 17 in Cambodia, while displacing about 800,000 people. United States President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly intervened on the long-standing conflict this year, claimed last week that 2 countries had agreed to a new ceasefire, but Bangkok denied any truce had been agreed upon, and fighting with artillery, tanks, drones, and jets has continued daily. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Martin Sairides. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from Ecuador. Thank you very much, Mr. Martin Sairides, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now looking at this, how fragile is the situation between Cambodia and Thailand, and why is Thailand denying the claims that are claimed by US that there has been a ceasefire agreement has been agreed?
Well, Thailand is right. There has not been a ceasefire taking into account. We know that at least 17 people were killed from the Thailand side, and more than a dozen were killed in the Cambodian side. They're right. There's no ceasefire at the moment. I don't know how Trump came into that conclusion. And it seems that it's going to be escalating because if there's not a strict limitation or agreement into a ceasefire now, after these casualties, the situation can escalate more if we don't delimitate limits for this conflict.
So, since we know that ceasefire has not been agreed upon, and Thailand has openly stated that, why hasn't Cambodia said anything? Why has not Cambodia not claimed that about or shown their stance on this?
I think it can be because of political pressure. It's not on Cambodia's interest right now to disalign with their foreign policies with the U.S. But I think that if the situation escalates more, Cambodia would not have any other option.
Do you think that U.S.'s impact or U.S.'s U.S. emphasizing on ceasefire and stuff, this is losing power across the world, because we know that U.S. has brokered many ceasefire, including in Africa with DRC and Rwanda, and then Gaza and Israel. None of them seem to be holding on.
Absolutely. I think the current Trump administration is not serious. I think they're claiming they are working for the global peace. Well, they're doing the opposite. They're creating chaos around the world. They are illegally invading a country like Venezuela. So I think absolutely, I think Trump thinks he's the owner of the world, and he wants to invade every single place that he wants because he wants to take the country's resources. So right now, we don't see like an order in the world. We don't see like a leadership in the world that will guarantee peace in the world right now. I think we're in a very dangerous situation.
100%. And lastly, Mr. Rides, what do you think could be long-standing solution for these two countries, or what should they do next?
The first thing they should do is an investigation of the bombing, like what was the cause. Like one country alleges security measures, the other country says is just part of a broader strategy. So I think right now there should be an investigation, a ceasefire. Neither Cambodia or Thailand should retaliate if they don't want this to escalate, and they should go to terms. The international community should give pressure, and that's, in my opinion, the only way this can be solved.
Thank you very much. That's very insightful. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Martin Sairides for joining us today as an international affairs expert from Ecuador. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Albania. Chaos erupted in Albania's parliament as opposition lawmakers clashed with police during a heated session over corruption allegations against senior government officials. Tensions boiled over as opposition members lit flares, threw water at the speaker, and occupied seats reserved for cabinet ministers in an attempt to block proceedings. The unrest follows weeks of political standoff linked to allegations against Deputy Prime Minister Belinda Baluku. Opposition leader Sali Berisha accused the government of corruption, declaring that there could be no parliament with officials who steal and evade justice. Lawmakers from the opposition demanded access to the formal charges filed by the Special Prosecution Office, which has asked Parliament to lift Baluku's immunity and allow her arrest. The ruling party, which holds a majority, is expected to vote on the request. Maluku has denied wrongdoing, calling the accusations false and politically motivated, while pledging full cooperation with the judiciary. That's all we have time for. Keep watching News 6 World for more news updates from around the world.